Yep. And so Dan, so we kind of talked about the time variance between first and second degree.
Yes.
It's go time. It's go time, second
Yeah.
degree. You talk about different sections, what happens in the first section, or if there's anything else, like what are you wearing? Are you wearing the same thing? You blindfolded? Any knives here sticking at you?
Yeah. Yeah. So you find yourself back in the same situation. You're back in that room adjacent again. You're wearing weird garb again. This time, I think it might be your right breast that's open instead of your left, the minor variations. You got one shoe on instead of that kind of thing. But for all intents and purposes, you're right back in the same spot. You go through the first portion of the ritual. And the overarching idea for the second degree is, which by the way is called the fellowcraft degree. Second degree, you're called a fellowcraft. And the initiate is passed from ignorance to knowledge. So the first degree, you're basically going like, I know nothing and I want to be enlightened. I want to be brought into light. The second degree is going, okay, I know some things. I'm initiated now. I'm entitled to some information. The second degree, they're just going to fill you with all the information Masonry believes you need on this side of heaven to be an upright man. So again, go through blindfolded, come into the lodge. Series of things are happening around me. During this time, this is before you take the obligation. You can't actually take your blindfold off until you take the obligation. That's the deal. You are blindfolded until that point. So before the obligation in the second degree, they read Amos 7 out loud. And what a peculiar, I mean, I can't even tell you the last time my church said the word Amos. You know what I mean? Like, you're just never an Amos. But Freemasonry decided Amos 7 is a worthwhile thing to point out. So let me just read what Amos 7 says. It says, "This is what the Lord showed me. Behold, the Lord was standing beside a wall built with a plumb line in his hand. And the Lord said to me, Amos, what do you see? And I said, a plumb line. Then the Lord said, behold, I am setting a plumb line in the midst of the people of Israel. I will never again pass by them. The high places of Isaac shall be made desolate, and the sanctuaries of Israel shall be laid waste. And I will rise again the house of Jeroboam with the sword." What a weird thing to read, right? In Freemasonry. So here's where this goes back to natural law, in my opinion. The plumb line that Freemasonry wants to teach their initiates is natural law. That is the measuring stick in which God is going to use to say, are you an upright man when it comes down to judgment, or are you not? And it will be based on natural law. I think what we need to get right here is that that's not about natural law. It's about Torah. So I'd love to hear your opinion there. Do you think Torah is how we're measured, whether we're upright, or any thoughts there?
Michael, you want to answer that?
Well, I think, of course, yeah. I think that's our plumb line. That's what we're based off of. That's what Yeshua walked out perfectly, and he's our example. And we just, it's amazing. Blessings come from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I've pointed out many, many times, that many Christians who are indoctrinated and taught as part of the propaganda that the Torah has been done away with, and it's a terrible thing, we're not to take part in it. They are actually way more Torah centric than they realize many, many times. And so it's a scary word for a lot of people. But yes, I do believe we will be judged by the instructions in righteous living, the law of heaven, the Torah. And just because somebody comes over and says, I do Torah now, I'm, Torah centric. This goes back to the fruit thing. I have seen so much rotten fruit in this movement, this, if you want to call it a movement, the Torah movement. And I've seen a lot of great fruit in the Christian church. And there's some verbiage that is not, like, some cross wires, so I can go off down that path. But yes, I agree with that.
Sure. And I remember during my study during this one, the Vulgate Latin version. So there's different Targums and LXX, the Vulgate Latin, it doesn't say plumb line. It literally says Mason's trowel. So it's which they lay their plaster and they go like this. So that's basically what they're doing here. So this is the first section.
That trowel, I like that you brought up the trowel. I don't think we talked about it in our episode, but the trowel is representing the spreading of the cement. That's what it's used for in operative masonry. In speculative masonry, it's used to represent the spreading of brotherly love. So perhaps there's some connection there with loving your neighbor and that sort of thing.
I know we talked about it in our episode. Do you want to talk more about operative and speculative, or no?
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
this
we
one?
could talk just briefly. Yeah, I didn't bring
Yeah.
it up. My apologies. So think of it this way. If masonry is teaching what's called operative masonry and speculative masonry, when you think operative masonry, think like this side of heaven, hands-on, like actually building something and using the real tools here. Like if I wanted to build a house, I would lay the foundation. I would put a cornerstone first and then build from there. Speculative masonry is taking those same principles and thoughts and applying it to morality in the spirit. And Freemasonry started as actual stonemasons and doing work. And in order to get work and get a job, you would have to go to the job site and you would have to have the right handshake and the right password to start apprenticing and learning the craft to build the buildings. And Freemasonry is just trying to apply that same type of concept, but they're applying it in the spiritual world.
Wouldn't you know, the first 2 degrees, they're apprentice and a crafter, a fellow
That's
crafter.
precisely what it is.
And then
That's
once you get experience, you're just the master at it. You understood what you're doing with
correct.
the